Step Into My Office is a podcast filled with real conversations and interviews about entrepreneurship, hosted by the founders of 135 Agency and built with Black women in mind. If you like us, leave us a review and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Now let's start the show.
Welcome to Step Into My Office, the podcast about a Black woman's perspective on entrepreneurship and business. I am Shante Bacon-Cius, CEO of 135 Agency, and Eloise and Ethel.
And I am Saptosa Foster, managing partner of 135th.
So before we talk more about the podcast, let's give some background on who we are. So I'm a Queens native, Jamaica, Queens. Went to Hampton University, come from a large and loving Black family. We built 135 over the last 15 years on blood, sweat, tears, ambition, commitment, drive, a commitment to never giving up. And 135 is one of those companies that I'm incredibly proud to be a part of, and definitely to have founded and built. But never before in the history of the company has it been more important than right now, all of the work that we've done. It's like a culmination to that just has met this moment. And we've been, I would say, activists in the business world for Black women and Black entrepreneurs for 15 years. And now that work is finally paying off.
I started out meeting Shante in 1995 as an intern at Pendulum Records in New York. We were both in college at different schools. I was at Spelman, Shante was at Hampton. And I went on and graduated and became a journalist, writing for Vibe, XXL, The Source. And after about 7 or 8 years of that, I was looking for a better, more sustainable career. Freelance writing was just, the lifestyle was not something that I was really comfortable with or could see myself doing long term. So, meeting when we were teenagers, we did keep in touch off and on over the years. And in 2005, we connected. Actually, in 2004, Shante had just left Def Jam. And so she reached out and wanted me to write some stuff for her company, 135th Street Agency. And so officially in 2005, she offered me the opportunity to partner with her and to work on specifically more of the PR aspect of the agency. Because PR to me felt like a natural progression from journalism, because I was still dealing with editors and the media, but now from a messaging perspective versus an editorial perspective. So it's been a ride ever since, and we learned a lot of lessons from that experience, and that's what we want to bring to this podcast. We want to create a dialogue for fellow professionals, fellow publicists, fellow Black entrepreneurs, to discuss, exchange, and share some of the insights that we've all sort of learned along the way.
So let's talk 135. When I think of 135 and something two young Black women built, I couldn't be more proud. I think that the small team that we have of young African American and sometimes Latino marketing and communications professionals is what I'm extremely proud of, and our track record of work. We've been on, it's the roller coaster of a lifetime, this entrepreneurial journey, and we've done great work. We've won big awards, and we have definitely made a name for ourselves, and I'm proud of the legacy that we built. Sap, what would you say is one of the top 5 accomplishments? What do you think?
Well, one thing that I'm really proud of is I'm proud that we have been representing the Oprah Winfrey Network for over 8 years. I think industry-wise, not many may know that Oprah Winfrey actually has retained an African-American woman-owned agency for most of the existence of her network, which I think is an achievement and something that she, the company and the community, our industry should celebrate. So that in and of itself, we also get to celebrate any gains that network has made as an industry.
Definitely.
I also am very proud of the work that we did in the 2018 midterm elections, with the Democratic Congressional
It's the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Okay, thank you. And so we
No problem.
we did digital marketing work. I'm very proud of that. Shante is very passionate about politics and really orchestrated our entry into the political realm, which we're still in that realm, trying, working to make an impact. Today's administration does not make that easy. But I love that. I also loved LA 92 and Moonlight, working on two groundbreaking films.
Moonlight.
Moonlight winning an Oscar, and LA 92 being a very poignant, important piece of art, a work of art that chronicled the 1992 Rodney King, the riots that happened after Rodney King. So I'm proud, just like you said, of the work that we've done. And I think the lessons that we've learned, like the work and what it looks like on the outside is one thing, but I think listeners to this podcast can really take away some valuable tools from the things that we did on the, that you didn't see, the lessons we learned behind the scenes, the wins, the losses, the failures, the achievements. So I'm excited to be having this platform to really kind of further the dialogue around, all of the issues that our industry goes through. And when I say industry, I mean Black professionals in communications. So it's just really a great time, and I think we have a lot to offer and a lot to talk about.
Agreed. I mean, I think that, you just brought up a few of my faves. Another thing that I think that was one of my highlights during the history of 135 is the barbecues.
Oh, yes.
One of these days we're going to bring back the barbecue.
Goodness.
I still run into people to this day that are like, when are you bringing back the Harlem barbecue?
Okay, wait, tell them what the Harlem barbecue was about. Because they don't know. They need to know. Describe what it was, and like the first year that we did it, how crazy it was.
Oh, yeah. So it started at the park across the street from my house in Harlem. And so the third Saturday in August, which usually falls around the 21st or 22nd, we would do this massive barbecue. So shout out to Sean, the best fish fryer in the world. You want to talk about a line wrapped around for hours and hours. And the crazy part is we'd have him frying fish all night and working the grill. I don't know how he did
Sean
it. He grew like 35 arms. Yes. He grew like 35 arms, and he was feeding hundreds of people, and we're running around worried about the DJ and the sound and all of that. And some kind of way, by the end of the night, we had never eaten a morsel. We didn't even get a chance to get a drink. We were exhausted, and everybody was leaving, having a great time, and couldn't wait till next year. And we still had a good time, but just missed out on the entire barbecue experience. But you know what? It was so worth it. So it started across the street at the park, but it grew to its highest height when we took it to Tale, which is a club that doesn't exist anymore, over on the West Side Highway. And it was literally, we don't even have an accurate number, but it was somewhere between 600 and 800 people who came to that barbecue that night.
And that Miguel was there. That
and
was the first year, he was like hot that summer.
Miguel and my son. Mm-hmm. And we had 10 day beds out around that's how much space we had. Mm-hmm. 10 day beds, a packed kind of parking lot area. It was the most amazing thing. And we haven't done the barbecue, and I'm going to go ahead and say not since 2013. Mm-hmm. That was the last time we did it, and we did a very scaled down version. Mm-hmm. And after that, we were like, yeah, if we're going to do it, we got to go big. Yeah. So the barbecue is one of my highlights. Also, I'm going to go ahead and say that tour we did for BET with 11 stores owned by African Americans, the takeover, it was like 7 hours that day, 11 million social media impressions. That was a moment too, in the timeline. Mm-hmm. And then countless, other things that the 2018 midterms, which, being able to affect public policy and politicians and really try to drive people to get out the vote. That's important work. And
Exactly.
it's actually becoming more and more of a priority these days because we all feel a calling to be more purposeful in helping to protect our democracy in a way that we've never had to before. So yes, all of the work that we've done really led to this moment and why we wanted to start a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that we wanted to do this podcast because over the years we've done webinars, we've done panels, we've spoken to the vast majority of, or a vast amount of young Black women who have wanted to start their own business. And we hear all of the challenges. We know those challenges personally. And we still always tell people when you feel the calling to start a business, do it. There's not a whole lot of resources out there for African American entrepreneurs, period, but definitely not for women. No matter what industry you're in, the odds are that you're defying gravity every single day. That you try to build your business, but the fighter spirit is in you, so you keep going. So I think that's what led us here.
Yeah, and we want to have conversations that you don't often hear from other Black women entrepreneurs. You're not going to hear about, what happens when, one of our first events where we did an event and the venue actually wasn't open at the time where we called the call time for the event. Smack DVD and
that was horrifying.
He and the guy he passed away. He was murdered years. Oh my God! Like this
stack bundles.
Yeah, stack bundles. But
it's stack bundles. Absolutely,
stack bundles. And we did like a listening event or something, and like some of the things that were in our early years because we were pretty naive in business, but we did it anyway. But, conversation stories, we want to empower people with knowledge, share insights. We're going to offer segments such as Black Girl Boss and spotlight Black women entrepreneurs who inspire us. We're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about, the pandemic and, racial justice, pricing, public relations, the value of PR. So I'm excited because I really don't know of another place to find this information unless another publicist who's willing to be transparent. And so that's not always the case in our industry, unfortunately, but at Step Into My Office, you can find, some real talk about what's going on, what affects us, and how we can elevate and move forward as Black professionals.
And to that point, I would say that probably one of the most important things about why we wanted to do Step Into My Office is because there are so many challenges that are just now being addressed in this moment, this very new moment that we're in with confronting systemic racism. But there's a lot of the reason why it's lasted so long is because everyone's afraid to speak up. And you're afraid to challenge some of the things that help to preserve the systemic racism, like the diversity industry and the role it plays in preserving it. And there's so many times where we know it and we'll talk about it within our own small circle, or we'll have conversations with other people who are experiencing it. But, you get blackballed or blacklisted if you actually say it out loud, or, people will try to work against you. But the truth is that it needs to be spoken. And I felt like this is exactly why we wanted to do Step Into My Office, because too many people are silent. Too many people are complacent in their position because they're good, and to hell with everybody else. Too many people are complicit with what's going on. And that's the reason why no matter what industry you're in, Black entrepreneurs, they usually are struggling and killing themselves trying to build a business, defying gravity against fighting the institutional racism, fighting the lack of capital, fighting the fact that the mainstream companies have the business on lock and there's only 2 to 5% of the business available for them, fighting all of these things and suffering in silence. And that's what we definitely don't want, is we don't want another Black entrepreneur to suffer in silence. We want to have these conversations and be very transparent and say the things that need to be said out loud.
Absolutely. So we're excited and we invite you to join us for each and every episode. You can subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media at 135 Agency. That's ONE35 Agency. You can also use Step Into My Office, the hashtag Step Into My Office, to send us your feedback and questions. And we really look forward to going on this journey with you.
Okay, with that said, we'll see you next time on the next episode of Step Into My Office.